part of what I was wanting to get your thoughts on was your experience at the MDP.
Okay. Well, it's right for me. The experience was brilliant, especially because the network and the people we've met in the course. In terms of the framework itself, I think it was quite useful because on the duration of the MDP, I was offered the position of my first GM, my first hotel, so officially as GM, even though I was doing acting GM in Birmingham New Street. So we kind of, all the learnings, everything that we had in the different modules throughout those months were quite helpful because I was able to immediately apply those learnings with the teams, within the owners, within the hotel itself, within the operation. But I think it's quite eye-opening because normally in that level, and if you look at the group that was there, we had a mix of operations from different brands, economy to Lux, and everyone, even though even the smallest hotel could have the highest challenges compared to anything really. And I think we had a great learning to see, even though we have different brands, we also have the same kind of questions and the same reservations in terms of where do we go, and I think the program kind of builds that in a very, very consistent timeline. But I have great memories of the program, obviously.
So you were saying it covers quite a bit of the technical stuff that you needed, like the sales and revenue and finance and all of those, but that particularly at the beginning. But would you also say through the program that those leadership challenges and the team working challenges are there?
The part of the sales, the networking, for me was not that difficult.
Very comfortable, yeah.
The finance though, the more analytical, strategical thinking, that was a bit more of a challenge for me, but then with the hotel that I was taking into and the learnings, it kind of started to build up, and the confidence towards the end of the program was much higher. But I think if you look at the whole group, different people have different strengths, and in the project groups that we were working, we also had that possibility of kind of compensating for each other's areas of improvement. So there was a lot of sharing, and I think one of the greatest things of the program is the fact that even though you have a main project, you are working on different projects, smaller projects, and you have the opportunity to work with everyone really. So that's for me, it's one of the good things.
So you're having to learn to prioritize the big project that you've got 11 months and a lot of pressure to deliver on, and constantly having little things. Oh, and by the way, you've got a day job as well.
Yes.
But you're all going through it together, aren't you?
Yeah, it's good. I think it's if you look at the learning and development program that Accor has, I think this program, if you look at what we're trying to achieve and looking at the succession plan that we have currently in-house, and if you look at the opportunities and positions that can start to become available for future leaders, if we don't work on those things that we are working now, and such as the program works, which is giving you the backup in terms of learning, what you can learn, the theory and the technical part of it. But then you also have the real life experience of having to deal with your colleagues, but they will challenge you on the decisions, on the projects, on everything, on the research, on what to put in place, when, how. No, but I know better than you because. So all these kind of things, it builds you, it prepares you for the next step as a proper leader, as a GM, let's say, if you're looking at operations level, as a general manager for Heyward.
What would you say is the key thing that this program contributed to in that leadership development for you?
Individually?
Yeah.
A great network, for sure.
Yeah.
I have a great network that I've managed to build through the program. I was inspired by current leaders as well that have something to share as well, and have been some sort in a similar program as us. But above all, I think sometimes we are waiting for something to come to us and say, okay, here's a new role that you can take. And what the program teaches you is that you need to go and get it. Yeah. So you need to put yourself out there, and with your challenges, or And even though you have areas of improvement, you know that you can do it.
So would you say part of the culture of the program is getting people to take responsibility for their own learning and actions
career.
and development?
Yes.
And yeah, I think that's very insightful. I hadn't thought of it that way before. Thank you for that. I think from what you've described, I'm getting a real picture that you see this program as being quite different to all the other supervisory development and all the other things that we offer.
Yeah.
What would you say are the key things that make MDP different from the other things we've done?
Well, it's the fact that you have these people working together for that period of time. You don't get that in shorter courses. And it's also the insight that you have from the challenges. You're doing the missions, and then you do the missions, and then you have some learning. And then you have the other group, or your competitors, and again, you learn something from that you actually didn't think about it, but again, it's like a cycle. And for me, this cycle doesn't finish, because it's, even if people decide, or we go into different corporate companies and we decide to leave the core by because it's obviously it's a very competitive world out there. It doesn't mean that we have to stay in the same company, but you take those relationships with you. So I think it's also the emotional intelligence that is connected within the course. It's really important to be able to develop yourself as a leader. I actually think that this is one of the highest skills that you can have going forward in terms of leadership.
What do you think the role of the course director in the MDP is, and how does that make the MDP a bit different?
Okay. Well, it's almost like having a bit of our conscience in the back saying, okay guys, you've done this, but have you looked at all the situations? You guys don't give her the answer, but you make us think all the time. And one of the things that you said before, it's like, yes, you kind of stretch, and you just stretch to see, are we going to break? Because you have real lifetime experiences when you're managing hotels. You have situations where you just you just push constantly. And yes, we can't break. We can break when we go home, but you can't break. And I think the fact that you are constantly pushed outside your comfort zone during the program, but with support, it's not that like, if something happens, we debrief, we go through the experience and say, okay, this is maybe where you could do better. Even though we are pushed and stretched, there's always a follow-up. We're not left alone. And I think the role, as I see it from you, Michael, at the time was kind of having that conscious behind us, kind of re-listening, and we would be adjusting. I think every one of us was very in sync with you, especially. We all knew Barry at the time, Ronan, you were the outsider. And for me specifically, you were always been someone that had almost like the right thing to say on very key moments, especially in situations where some of us were about just to go. And I remember a specific example actually when we were doing the Canyon Week. And I was with Raman, and Tanya was with Mahesh, I think. And then Raman then swapped with Tanya, and it's just like, it was not going well. And then again, you in your vision and in terms of leadership, you said, okay, well, let's do some adjustments. And you did adjustments. I was with Tanya on the boat, and we disappeared. And I think it's moments like this that we need strong coordination that is not bias, because obviously there will be some bias by the people we know and connect to. And you always brought that freshness in terms of, guys, here you're not from a hotel, you are you, and we need to think, we have to have a bigger vision. For me, you gave me that bigger vision to think outside the box and kind of go into really the direction that I want to. And the other thing as well, it's the fact that obviously you know what you're doing, but when we're talking about the emotional intelligence, I think is one of your greatest assets, because you read people very well, and I think you understand the challenges and how far you can stretch them in their own benefit. And that's, for me, it was a great experience. Mm-hmm. I was not the same person that started the course on day one and the same person that finished in Hotel Paddington, obviously. And I think pretty much all of the guys and most of us are still in contact, and most of us took on new roles within Accor, managing hotels, which is great, because even though I don't want to use a KPI, but actually, you can measure success by these transfers and these promotions. We all started the course different people, different leaders, different colleagues, different persons, and it was a whole kind of transformation by the end of the course.
And the kind of challenges that people have gone on to look for. With your group, it was quite interesting, the backgrounds, F&B, rooms, sales, all sorts of different backgrounds. And you very quickly work out that doesn't make a great difference when it comes to leadership.
Absolutely.
There's more difference in character than there is in background. You were talking then about how the different people are interacting and being challenged. Did you really see through the program that changed significantly, how different people were responding and adapting to that?
I think the majority of us were more open to change and to actually say, I need to change, whereas we had some individuals that obviously were really kind of holding on to, this is what I know, this is my comfort zone, and this is I'm not going to go out from here. And even though we've realized that there was some individuals that were sticking to their guns, the majority of the group would always kind of push them in the same direction, which is part of a team. Normally, if you apply that into, again, team life and what you do when you manage teams, whenever it comes to strategic change or transformation, if it's a cultural transformation, if it's a mindset, as we've seen so many times, especially in economy runs in Accor like IBs and IB styles, you always will have some resistance from some individual, but that's fine. It's part of the game. It's how the group kind of realizes that, and obviously probably not all the group, but then you'll always have 3 or 4 leaders that will be kind of leading naturally, and people will follow naturally, but they will take the resistance away and kind of transform it.
Did you feel like you went into the program knowing it was going to be tough? Knowing it's not the kind of program that you just turn up and get a bit of paper at the end?
No, I still remember when we went to the first day that we have
the introductory
Wolverhampton.
Oh yes.
And we were all like kind of pumped. Where are we going? When do we go? And there was a lot of rush going through. But I think everyone knew that it was going to be demanding. Nobody was expecting it to be a walk in the park, and every one of us had really very hard positions already at the time, with a lot of responsibility, that we would say, okay, how I'm going to manage this, because I'm looking after the hotel full time, and I have to be away as well, I have to manage my team, I need to be present without being present. So there was, I don't think it didn't cross anyone's mind that this is going to be, I'm going to go there, I'm going to say a few things and off I go and bye-bye. No. But I think it's important to understand that this is the type of attitude and commitment you need to have towards a program like this. If you don't want to have a little bit of sacrifice, because there's a sacrifice, but in a good way, because at the end of the program you have your benefits, and you've seen the whole transformation. If you don't have that commitment, then don't even nominate yourself or ask for it, because it's
it won't work out.
No.
So one of the things, as you know, that we work on building very early on, and we use all the way through, is feedback that you're giving to each other. And we encourage it, and we say that our expectation is that it's the kind of feedback you will never really get anyone else, anywhere else. Do you think that's fair? And how does that form part of it for you?
Yeah, it's honest feedback and it's raw. It's very raw, but it's also very true. And I think once you realize that this feedback is because it's coming from peer to peer, and then obviously you have the feedback from the coordinators or the support from operations, but the feedback is from peer to peer, and I think that's very beneficial because it's what it is. There's no under silver linings. It's what it is. So even if you don't take it, it's fine. I'm still giving it to you. So this is what I think, and this is what it is. And I think if you look back at all the modules, and obviously we will always refer to the leadership week because that's where it's more.
It's quite intense.
It's quite intense.
Yeah.
The whole debrief on all the missions we had, there was always something that we've learned from the feedback we gave to each other. It's actually the feedback that we had, 80% was from peer to peers. You guys were more like in terms of how could you approach things differently or in left or right, but not like you have done this, you have done that. So that for me it's very helpful. I think generally people should be able to receive and accept feedback with no interruptions. It's like thank you. That's it. It's not thank you but it's thank you. But when you have that consistently from 12 different individuals, and when more than one person is saying you should improve this area, listen, because it actually means something.
Yeah.
And again, one of the key things is what actually you do with that feedback after the program. Because as I said before, I strongly believe that the program continues in the life or in the way you do your things and in the way you develop your career.
Do you think with the changing environment now for Accor, with more franchise, with a different relationship with Accor Invest, did everything you went through in MDP help you now for the way you're interacting with owners and a more complicated reporting environment?
Yeah, absolutely. I think,
what way?
If you look at the business model we had, let's say before Booster, we were kind of being babysitted in the sense that we had our area managers, and it was a very kind of protective way of the GMs were. I'm not saying it was bad or not. I'm just saying that it was different, and because we were sitting on this bubble with a lot of support from our area managers, we didn't experience other areas when you have to deal with partners and owners. With Booster, what the transformation that happened in the core, I think, and we started to be exposed to all those things, and suddenly it's like, how do I deal with this? And I was fortunate enough to be on the MVP pretty much when everything was happening.
Yes.
And that kind of showed me the different ways on how I have to address to partners, to owners, to operations, to having to report to different identities and having to fulfill completely different needs when I need to look after the Accor as a brand, and then I need to look after ROI from my owners, and you have to balance that. And this you don't learn. I haven't learned before. I had learnings from MVP that kind of took me into a different area of what is the future bringing, and how you can adapt yourself as a general manager to fill in all those boxes.
Yeah, fantastic.